welcome. And I invite all of you on Facebook or virtual to let us know you're here. Say hi and do a shout out or wave. It's always good to know that somebody's out there. Is anybody out there? So this month at the Centers for Spiritual Living, we have been looking at the theme. September's theme was Reaching Higher. And Reverend Maggie had some great talks about that. One was called Transcend and Include, and the other was Push Past Your Comfort Zone. And in keeping with that theme of reaching higher, my topic today is, and still I rise. And still I rise. In spite of the discomfort and obstacles in our lives, we can persevere. We can rise above, can't we? I know you can, because you're here, and you have. We've all risen above something difficult. Perhaps what is in the way is the way. Figure that one out. And that we rise not in spite of our challenges and discomforts, but because of them. We rise because of our discomforts. And many people think that a happy life is a challenge-free life. Oh, wouldn't that be nice? Well, however, life with its challenges stimulates our growth and our development. It's part of the human school. And I believe that within us, there is that continues to call us forward and upward on a journey of awakening, that calls us to a greater understanding of ourselves, our relationship with our authentic self, and our role and purpose in society and in this thing called life. When we transcend our resistance to challenges, it can be spiritually liberating. And still, I rise. What does that mean to you? Reverend Maggie reminded us, imagine allowing upsets to lift you up. Imagine. An upset could lift you up, or at least be curious about them. Are you willing to rise today? I heard one sure. Not everybody else is like, I don't know. It's okay. Raise your hand. That's fine. Because we're liberated, aren't we, when we rise above something? We get out of the stage one of consciousness, which is victimhood, and we rise above that. And we fall back sometimes, but in our philosophy, we know those tools, which I'm going to give you some today, to lift us up above a difficulty. So in Science of Mind, we know that there is within each of us that which is unstoppable, inexhaustible, inextinguishable, unchangeable. That which we call spirit, divine intelligence, source, God, creator. That in which we live, move, and have our being. That's who we are at our core. That essence of us rises in us, as us, and can never be lost, never be extinguished. It's always there, even in our most challenging times. Have you ever noticed on the sidewalk a tender little plant coming out of the concrete? I'm sure some of you have seen that. Or sometimes when we go hiking up in the Sierras, you'll see a tree growing out of a rock, seemingly growing out of a rock. And I brought today, from our property, we call these naked ladies. Well, pink ladies, different things. But if you've ever seen these, first in the springtime, there's these green, lush leaves. And then all the leaves die and they look like just dead stuff on the ground. And then all of a sudden, these beautiful aromatic bulbs pop up out of seemingly nothing. So nature, Mother Nature, gives us so many reminders that we can rise out of what doesn't seem to be very nurturing. And why can we rise? Why? Resilience. Resilience, being resilient. And oh, we've had to be this past year. Anybody?
Yeah.
More than a year now, right? We have had to learn how to be adaptable and resilient and not just have a constant pity party. Or maybe you have, but not you, not here, not now, right?
Right.
So I have two of my favorite teachers with me today, Mark Nepo and Michael Bernard Beckwith. And I love in the Book of Soul with Mark Nepo, he talks about the name of the band, Sweet Honey in the Rock. Have you heard of that group?
Yes.
Some of you have. It's an all-woman, a cappella, African-American group, and amazing group of women. And their group name comes from Psalm 81 in the Bible, which alludes to a land so fertile that when rocks in that soil are cracked, honey drips from them. What a great metaphor for the sweetness that is waiting to be released if you can endure the cracks. Oh, hear that? This is the reward for daring to meet our possibility, for daring to rise above a difficulty. Resilience, he says, has to do with the improbable belief that there is honey in the stone, and that the sweet things extracted from hard things will heal us. So Mark Nepo says, dream on, till the honey that sleeps in the rock of our stubbornness makes its sweetness known. Dream on, until the honey that sleeps in the rock of our stubbornness makes its sweetness known. The rock of our stubbornness. Have you ever been stubborn? Oh, bless our hearts. So that image is a great image of the crack in the rock, that it has something there for us. You may not find it right away, but sometimes it takes years to say to yourself, wow, that incident changed me. I became a better person because of it. Haven't you experienced maybe something like that? Yeah. And a little reminder here about gold nuggets. So at the end of my talk and at the end of service, you're going to have a chance to share something you're going to catch today that I'm saying. So we have pens in the out there. You can just jot down your golden nugget if you get one. So we had Reverend Patty Weber here a while back, and one of my great teachers, and she had a great, in her book, Spiritualize It Today, it was about exactly what I'm talking about. She said, when God closes one door, he opens another, but it's hell in the hallway. I don't know who said that, but it's a great quote. Yes, it's a process in that in-between area. And still, that is where all the growth, possibilities, and learnings of a new higher consciousness exist. The doorways offer a brief moment of rest. After all, this is Earth School, so it's a busy incarnation for us as we create many opportunities to keep practicing keeping our vibe high. As we trust the process of life and move through the hallway even-mindedly, all the answers will appear. We then move quickly out of the hallway of confusion and into the well-lit doorway of reason and knowing, and we return to joy. What a relief. So maybe some of us are in the hallway right now in our lives. So the power of divine love rises in me and I am free. That's my affirmation. The power of divine love rises in me and I am free. I can say that when I face something that's difficult. Breathe that in. The power of divine love rises in me and I am free. And it doesn't matter how many times we fall down. What matters is how many times we Get up. Right. How many times we get up? What if our past is no longer our truth? And what if we gave ourselves permission to live in a new way? So our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, in The Science of Mind, in the textbook, he said this: I know there is a power for good which is responding to me and bringing into my experience everything necessary to my unfoldment. This power for good uses every part of my human experience, the joyous and the challenging, the pleasure and the pain, to guide me into a deeper awareness and knowingness of itself as me. In God, nothing is wasted. All of my life experiences are used by the power of good, enabling me to help others and to bless the whole world. Nothing is wasted. Oh, yeah. Think about that in your life. We know there is a divine intelligence, a creative power back of all things that operates in, through, and as us most perfectly. So what if nothing is wasted in our life, and that everything is being used for your good and for your development? So in this context, think about it. We would then face life's joys and challenges with equanimity, knowing all of our experiences are being used in service to our greater unfoldment. So that which seems most devastating produces a texture and uniqueness in the work of art that is you. That which felt unendurable can become the crucible that blasts away the small self and gives way to the greater. What are the difficulties and challenges that you may be experiencing trying to teach you right now? Just asking that question is very powerful. You know, every great spiritual teacher who has ever graced this earth has taught the same thing, that our discomforts can lead to something greater. Whether it was the Buddha, whose father tried to protect him from all suffering, but he had to leave and experience all of it before he found enlightenment. Or Joan of Arc, who at age 17 led her people straight into battle to find victory. Or even Jesus, after he was crucified, he rose. He had a resurrection. So in order for us to rise, sometimes we have to loose the old in order to get our liberation and freedom, right? We have to let go and not drag that baggage with us all the time. So that invites us to be spiritual warriors. Da, 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 da. So we stop running from the pain and discomfort and we face it. I heard it said, whenever I have an irritated feeling, I know it's an invitation to self-healing. Whenever I have an irritated feeling, I know it's an invitation to self-healing. So then we're at choice. And still, I rise. And still, I rise. Are you willing?
Yes.
Okay, I got more yeses this time. I'm teaching a book study on spiritual liberation by Reverend Michael Beckwith, and he has a wonderful story that has a very close connection to what I'm talking about. He says, during one of my meetings with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, a rare opportunity opened up to have the blessing of a few moments of just hanging out with him. To me, he's a wonderful example of the freedom that comes from the practice of discipline. Although exiled from his own country and saddened by the tragedy occurring in Tibet, he radiated tremendous love, peace, and joy. Think about that. He's exiled from his own country, and yet he can still radiate. What I admired on that occasion, he says, was how the Dalai Lama openly expressed his feelings about the suffering of the Tibetan people, whom he profoundly loves, and how in that next instant, a smile of transcendence would light up his face. Even as he spoke out against what is happening in his country, he was not entrapped by the experience. That's good to hear. Even though he spoke out against what was happening, he wasn't entrapped. He did not freeze frame the scene. Have you ever freeze framed a scene when you've been hurt or something? Think about that. He did not freeze frame the scene. In his wisdom, he realized life is fluid and that those who suffer today can be free tomorrow. He pierced the veil of appearances and saw truth. I attribute this, he says, in great measure to his daily discipline of meditation, which gives him the spaciousness of interior freedom. He's able to stand in truth while responding compassionately to the distressing circumstances of his people. He did not deny the reality of what's happening in Tibet or the truth of his inner freedom. And the inner work that we are called to do is no different from His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. We too are candidates for enlightenment. Each of us has the choice to write the discipline of freedom into our daily script. It is wise to do so because such a practice will strengthen your spiritual backbone. Who doesn't want to strengthen your spiritual backbone? Yeah. So it's interesting, in many New Thought traditions, we tend to want to avoid pain, like, oh, I'm a spiritual person, I shouldn't feel this way. Has anybody ever had that thought? Or we do what's called spiritual bypass, or we deny. We see it as bad, that I shouldn't be feeling this way, rather than having it be an opportunity to clear an opening for the greater expression of spirit. So bypassing our feelings is an unsatisfying fix, and it robs us of our lessons, our deep lessons, wisdom, and power that those challenging experiences can offer us. So instead of running from pain and difficulty when it comes to visit, what if we lean into a process of listening closely to what this has to teach me? What do you have to teach me? What if we reframed the struggle as an expression of spirit, a holy portal that leads us to the center of our own unique power and purpose? We can ask, how can this serve my higher good? What is mine to do here? Instead of why me, which is a low vibrational question, right? We know that. And still I rise. The power of divine love rises in me and I am free. Let's say that together. The power of divine love rises in me and I am free. Now think about it. If you said that before every morning or before anything you had that felt difficult, wouldn't that give you a little power? It's like a little boost, a little jolt. So how is your journey in life preparing you to raise yourself up? Or to raise another up? How do we keep our vision high and focused on the good when the challenges we are facing seem overwhelming? It seems like the higher I go, the lower they go. Have you ever heard that? So how can we rise when others want to keep us down? It's an inside job, isn't it? That's why we meditate. That's why we take classes here. That's why we study. That's why we contemplate. That's why we do many, many practices. And so today I'm going to give you 7 practices to raise our consciousness. They're very simple. You can take notes if you like. And these are from Michael's book, Spiritual Liberation. And they should be fairly familiar to everyone. And you probably do most of them most of the time. But I invite you to, if there's 1 or 2 that you've never even attempted or you're not clear on, to try it out. So these are 7 consciousness-raising practices. The first one is gratitude, which is no surprise, right? Having a grateful heart, including the seeming bad news. So he talks about evolved people, which we are, give thanks for what most people ordinarily take for granted. Gratitude is an expression of humility, a recognition that even before we ask, good has been given. And gratitude also includes respect for what the ego would call bad news or challenging circumstances that do come into our lives to wake us up. He has a funny little story here about a gal in one of his classes who had kidney disease. And she asked the class for a prayer, to put her on the prayer list. And Reverend Michael asked the class, he said, well, why don't we work to heal the kidneys that you already have, Donna? And Donna responded that he didn't understand her particular type of kidney disease, advising that it was very rare and that seldom, if anyone, was ever healed by it. So she asked that we stick to praying for her original request of being moved up on the transplant list. So at this juncture, Reverend Michael says, a story was told about how Alan Watts was learning to wait and use in-between times for meditation. So while you're waiting for something, why not meditate or pray? So I suggested to Donna and the class that while we were waiting for her to be moved up on the transplant list, we experiment in the laboratory of prayer and see what we could do about her existing kidneys. Okay, Donna said. So he asked the class, how many of you woke up this morning and gave thanks for the perfect functioning of your kidneys? So an assignment, I asked the students to give thanks every time they went to the bathroom and to simultaneously offer a prayer for Donna's kidneys. We called it the pee-pee prayer. Praying while peeing. Prayer is not just reserved for a certain room in the house, church or temple or synagogue. Bathrooms are great places for prayer. And I attest to that. I pray all the time when I go to the bathroom. I give thanks for my body and its functions. So they went through this for a while. He also gave her daily reading assignments in The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, which specifically addressed the healing of her kidneys. So Reverend Michael didn't know if she actually did all this, but what ended up happening is that her kidneys spontaneously began functioning normally. The doctors were befuddled. Nobody knew what was going on, and 2 years later, her kidneys are still normal, and she's grateful for all the things most people take for granted. Don't take your body for granted. Bless it and thank it every day. In my yoga class, we always bless our body. We thank our body, the beginning and the end of the practice. Thank you, body. You can just say that to yourself silently. Thank you, body, for being here today. Thank you for giving me that strength and vitality. The second one, generosity. Giving. He says evolved people give to live until they live to give. As individuals expand their understanding of universal laws, you give in order to live a life of inner wealth. This is the process of growing out of a mindset of getting something from the world to letting something from within you be freely given. Generosity is a microcosmic reflection of the macrocosmic givingness of spirit. Spirit is always giving, always, 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 always. And do we hoard? Do we hold on to things, or can we be generous in our giving? And the giving doesn't have to be financial, as we know. It can be a smile. It can be letting someone in traffic to come on in front of you. It can be a wave. It can be a thank you to the clerk at the store. Being generous with your heart. How can I give of myself today? Who can I serve today? How can I be generous today? What if we started every morning like that? How can I be generous today? Because what we give out, we give back. We know that. It's the law. It's the law. It's karma. It's everything. So check out, what are you giving out? Forgiveness is the third practice. The F word. It's not a one-time deal. Yeah, take a breath with that. Because resistance to forgiving is an attachment to the need to be right. And when we close our heart, we can't allow that spirit to flow in us. We want to keep our minds and hearts free of resentment and animosity because it's vital to our spiritual awakening. And it takes practice and practice. And there's many different forms of forgiveness. Talk to a practitioner, talk to me, talk to Reverend Maggie. We can always help with that part of our spiritual growth, forgiveness. Ernest Holmes said, "Take the heat out from under old hurts, and what is left is light." Take the heat out from under old hurts, and what is left is light. Number 4, no problem. No problems. Evolved people understand that there's a celebration going on throughout the great universe, and that a cosmic celebration can be localized within you when you realize life is not a problem to be solved, but a magnificent mystery to be lived. I love that. I love that little switch. Not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. He talks about a baby chick, and I want you to visualize a baby chick in the shell. When we are immersed in the depths of a problem, our situation is like the baby chick in a shell. As the chick evolves, the shell becomes polluted and claustrophobic environment, where its space, mobility, and plenitude are challenged. God does not step up to the plate, he says, and solve the problem for the chick. The solution has already been placed in the seed of the chick's existence. The chick pecks its own way out. The chick pecks its own way out when it has sufficiently evolved to maintain a life outside the shell. And so it is with us. As we need to peck our way out of any challenging predicament, is all that we need to peck our way out is already within us, awaiting our activation by our taking self-responsibility. Our human problems are calling us to grow and to peck into new paradigms. And we can be healed by spiritual discernment, by celebrating rather than only seeing a problem. Turn an obstacle into an opportunity. See the solution instead of the problem. See the mental equivalent of what you want to experience. It's very powerful. Number 5, accept self. Evolved people talk to themselves and not to the world. They accept themselves. Call it a dialogue between yourself and yourself with a capital S. Affirming and embodying the truth of who you are. Cultivating a pattern of leaning into your inner self with confidence so that you can skillfully handle anything that comes up in your life. Anything. Ernest Holmes again wrote, "There is an inner urge in our own minds to grow, to expand, to break down the barriers of previous limitation, and to ever widen our experience. This persistent urge is a divine influence, an irresistible force, and constitutes the greatest impulse in human experience." There's no outer critic, Reverend Michael says, conspiring against you, only the vaguer consciousness within you. So we want to get acquainted with our natural goodness. Number 6, evolved people do not require drama to know they exist. Drama! I love it, he says, notice when your mind starts chattering and writing operas about people and situations in your life that haven't even happened yet, or that aren't even true. Oh no, here we go again, opera, it's so difficult. Aren't we No drama. I love that. Happiness is our true nature. So we notice that we can lift ourselves, again, we can rise above difficulties, and that's where meditation comes in, when we quiet the mind, when we become still. I don't know if you noticed this morning in the meditation I led, that there's that few moments where you're nothing, you're nobody, you're no thought. You're just there, in that stillness. That's healing. That is so healing. There's no drama. There's just you, your breath, and the divine. That's why meditation is so important. It's that deep reconnection. Because once we do our meditation practice on a regular basis, we learn how to respond to something rather than just react. We become the observer and the witness. No drama. I'm done with drama. No fun. But you can always keep it if you want. It's good to notice these things, huh? And the last one is the value of downtime. Now, I know most of you know all about downtime because you're retired. But maybe you're so busy that you aren't retired, really. I always hear that from people. So evolved people know that downtime is one of the most valuable gifts they can give themselves. They have experienced that downtime is when their spiritual root system is strengthened by stopping outer activity and simply being. You're strengthening your spiritual root system when you just get quiet. Authentic rest is power. I'm not talking about sleep and drinking yourself crazy and any of that. Downtime of quiet, meditation, prayer, going in nature, having a cup of tea, whatever it is, setting that downtime, setting aside downtime to contemplate, introspect, will help you find that joy and peace and love that rests in your heart. So just look at these for yourself today and think about where you could strengthen one or two of them. So finally, he says, by cultivating these 7 practices of evolved people, an entirely new self will be revealed to you, a self that has been present all along. You will feel ongoing gratitude for the simple blessings in your life. You will give without an agenda. You will selflessly serve others. And a compassionate heart of forgiveness will go out from you as a blessing. You will no longer live as a mere problem solver, but as a joyous celebrant of what it means to have a precious, precious human incarnation. You will consistently choose happiness over drama, creating inner peace and a calm environment. And your downtime will be a given in your life, causing you to be captured by love, vision, creativity, and recognition that you are here. You are here to celebrate existence. Rise up, and claim your good. Rise up. Let us find the sweet honey in the rock, just like the pink ladies. They rise out of nothing. Are you willing?
Yes.
Are you able?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Me too. Let's take that into a prayer. Take a breath with me. How good it is to simply open our consciousness to this greater good, these ideas of rising up in spirit, in that divine communion, union with our good. As we are open and willing and receptive to let go of the lesser, to peel away those layers, to shed our outer skin and open to that new experience of what is calling us forward and upward. And so I'm grateful today to know that each of you has taken something with you today to lift you up, to open your heart, to ask a different question. And it is all perfect. In God, there are no mistakes. Nothing is wasted. How good it is to know that truth. And so we bless our challenges. We bless everything. We bless our past. We bless the present, we bless the future, knowing that we are on a path of evolution. We are on a path of love and givingness and generosity right here, right now. And something wonderful is happening within each of us. I know this to be true. And so I'm grateful, grateful, grateful that we are here together experiencing this amazing time on our planet. And that we are here to be beneficial presence on the planet. Thank you for being here. And so we smile, and we just let it be so. And join me in saying, and so it is. Amen.